Morning, good people, brothers, sisters, and beautifully defined siblings in the movement. Welcome to the unapologetic voice of labor, equity, and action. This is CWA Our Power Radio Show, where we amplify the organizers, uplift the everyday workers, and honor the giants whose shoulders we stand on right here on KYOK 1140 AM and 106.5 FM in the heart of Houston, Texas. If you're rolling through H-Town or just fired up anywhere in the world, stream us live at kyokradio.org on the CWA Strong app or catch the replay anytime by searching CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast platform. Because this space, this time, it's about us. That's right, it's about us. We're talking union contracts, organizing victories, labor rights, human dignity, fair pay, and bold everyday resistance to injustice in every form. So whether you're on the job, in your car, at your kitchen table, or deep in the fight, lean in. Honk your horns if you stand with workers. Throw a fist up if you know your worth. Joining me today are the fire starters and the truth tellers. Micaiah Jones, Sir Reginald Small, Timmia Wiley, David Marshall. And guess who else is in the house today? Tay Atkins is with us today. So buckle up, beloveds, because the power we build together, that power is ours. Let's get into it. Our union voices are ringing in every district from Alaska to Maine, Texas to Minnesota, Canada to Puerto Rico, because we don't play at CWA. Today's unlikely activist spotlight brings us to Chicago, a city known for its neighborhoods, its deep sense of community, and its long history of working class struggle. Here we meet Tariq Johnson, a chef whose activism emerged in the kitchen and grew into something far bigger, reshaping lives and giving young people a second chance. Tariq didn't grow up thinking he would become a community leader. He grew up loving food and learning the art of cooking from his mother, who ran a small neighborhood cafe. Cooking was his first form of expression, a way to care for people, to nourish them. But as he grew older, he began to see a problem. Young people in his community, especially those coming out of incarceration, had very few opportunities. They were full of potential but lacked guidance, support, and access to jobs. Tariq realized that he could combine his love of food with a mission, giving young people a path forward. He opened a culinary incubator in Chicago, a kitchen and training space where formerly incarcerated youth could learn skills, gain mentorship, and find employment. But it wasn't just about cooking, it was about building confidence, teaching responsibility, and restoring dignity to lives that had been discounted by the system. What makes Tariq an unlikely activist is that he didn't set out to protest, lobby, or campaign. He set out to cook, yet his work directly addresses labor rights, social justice, and economic equity. He is changing systems quietly but powerfully by providing tools and opportunities that prevent recidivism and lift families out of cycles of poverty. Tariq's program goes beyond culinary skills. He teaches young people how to manage money, interact professionally, and advocate for themselves. He partners with local restaurants, food suppliers, and community organizations to create employment pipelines, showing that activism doesn't always come from laws or legislation. Sometimes it comes from mentorship, opportunity, and access. In 2025, Tariq's impact is immeasurable. Dozens of youth have found meaningful work, and hundreds more have benefited from training programs and life skills workshops. His incubator has become a model for other cities seeking to combine workforce development with social justice. And through it all, he has remained hands-on, cooking alongside his students, reminding them that work and dignity go hand in hand. Tariq also speaks openly about systemic inequality, the challenges of urban life, and the importance of community support. He encourages people to see activism in practical, daily, and tangible, not just marches or speeches, but creating spaces where people can thrive, learn, and contribute. For the listeners of CWA Our Power Radio, Tariq Johnson's story is a reminder that human rights and labor rights are inseparable. Activism can be about creating a place where people are seen, valued, and given a fair shot at life, even when society has turned its back on them. Tariq's message is simple. You can't just talk about change, you have to build it plate by plate, person by person. That is Tariq Johnson, a chef, a mentor, and an unlikely activist, proving that you can change a city one life at a time. And in doing so, transform the world around you. Well, up next, we have Tea with Tae. Good morning, Tae.
Good morning, Errol, and good morning, KYOK family, and to my union siblings. Today, we have a strong dose. It's hot and it's uncomfortable because the topic is the truth is a threat. Let's be clear from the jump. If the truth weren't a threat, nobody would be working this hard to silence it. Truth doesn't need spin, truth doesn't need branding, and truth doesn't need permission. And that's exactly why it scares people in power. The truth threatens corporate systems, greedy corporations, union busting executive, politicians who campaign as champions and govern as cowards, and institutions that survive only because we've been trained to stay silent. See, lies are comfortable. Lies let people sleep at night, and lies keep checks coming and contracts intact. But the truth interrupts business as usual. Truth says, you're being exploited. Your labor built this wealth. The contract is unfair. The law was never meant to protect you. The truth says they need you more than you need them. And once people understand that, once workers see clearly and the balance of power starts to shift, that's when the truth becomes a threat. Let's talk about how this plays out in real life. When workers speak up about unsafe conditions and they're labeled troublemakers, when unions demand fair wages and they're called greedy or out of touch, when communities call out racism, voter suppression, or corporate abuse and they're told to move on, stop dividing people, or be patient. The translation for that: be quiet so we can stay comfortable. But comfort has always been the currency of oppression. The truth doesn't whisper, it exposes. And exposure is dangerous to a system built on secrecy. That's why whistleblowers are punished. That's why organizers are surveillanced. That's why history books are rewritten. And that's why the words like equity, solidarity, and justice get attacked. Because once people learn the truth, they start asking questions. And questions lead to actions. And actions lead to organizing. And organizing leads to power. And power in the hands of workers, the poor, and the marginalized is the greatest threat to the status quo. Let's say this clearly. If telling the truth costs you access, a pause, or approval, you were never free to begin with. We live in a time where people say, I don't want politics at work. I don't want conflict. I just want peace. But there's no peace without truth, only silence. And silence has never protected us. Silence didn't stop layoffs. Silence didn't stop union busting. Silence doesn't stop wage theft. Silence doesn't stop discrimination. And silence does not stop bad contracts and broken promises. The truth did. Truth organized. Truth documented. Truth mobilized. And truth forced change. So if you're feeling the pressure to tone it down, if you're being told you're too loud, too radical, too honest, good. That means you chose truth. Because lies don't get pushed back. Truth does. And on Tea with Tae, we don't water it down. We don't sweeten it for comfort. We serve it the way it needs to be served, hot, strong, and necessary. So sip carefully, but listen closely. Because the truth isn't the problem. The fear of what happens when people believe it is. And that's the tea for today. Stay awake, stay organized, and never apologize for telling the truth. Back to you, Errol.
You could have closed out and said Happy New Year to everybody with the Tea with Tae. Thanks so
Happy New
much,
Year.
Tae. You listen to KYOK 1140 AM in the all new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org, and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m., 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, or Amazon Music. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights to stay connected. Share your thoughts and join the conversation. Up next, we're going to be talking about accountability, truth, and collective power. Accountability is a part of adulthood, not politics, not ideology. Adulthood. And yet in America right now, accountability is treated like an attack. Ask questions and you're divisive. Demand answers and you're radical. Tell the truth and suddenly the truth becomes the threat. This isn't accidental. This is strategic. Political, corporate, and cultural power all depends on convincing working people that responsibility is optional unless you're the one paying the price. I've seen this up close. I've been in rooms where decisions were made about workers who weren't in the room. I've watched people say they support unions right up until it was inconvenient. And I've learned this: the loudest supporters often disappear when sacrifice shows up. That's why today we're talking about accountability and why truth is the only weapon we have to protect workers.
And, good morning, everyone. The proof is in corporate America, right? We've seen mass layoffs across telecom, tech, logistics, and healthcare right after companies report record profits. And our favorite, for lack of better terms, AT&T is a perfect example of that. Thousands of union jobs cut after a historic strike, while executives and shareholders remain untouched. That's retaliation dressed up as a structure.
And union busting isn't always loud anymore. Sometimes it's quiet. Outsourcing, slow walking negotiations, understaffing and forcing workers to work long hours or denying time off, and basically pushing people out till they quit. Corporation knows this works best, especially when workers feel isolated.
And actually, modern union busting, it doesn't always show up in the headlines. It's actually in HR memos, spreadsheets, and policy changes. But it accomplishes the same thing. It strips power from workers while keeping the narrative that things are fine.
And that's why we need to confront selective solidarity in our own communities. We love the idea of resistance, but we struggle with the practice. We repost a boycott, but still spend our money. We praise a strike, but complain about inconvenience. We say I support workers, but cross the line when it benefits us. I know I'm preaching good. Can I get an amen? Until the harm becomes personal, then suddenly we want everyone mobilized, but solidarity isn't seasonal. It's not reactive, it's proactive. Labor power grows when we stand together before the damage spreads.
And culture wars are the greatest distraction tool ever created. While we argue about symbols, language, and ideology, corporations quietly rewrite labor laws. Politicians weaken unions, rights are rolled back, division is profitable, confusion is strategic, and silence is golden to those in power.
And here in the South, that strategy has been perfected. Right to work laws weaken unions, corporations relocate for cheaper labor, communities are trained to be grateful instead of protected. The South isn't anti-worker by nature, it's been engineered to be anti-union.
So let's break this down just for the listening audience. Let's break down a few of the myths. This is one myth right here. Strikes hurt workers more than companies. And no, the truth is this right here. Short-term pain is what forces long-term gains. Can you say that with me now? Short-term pain is what forces long-term gains. Here's another myth. Boycotts don't work. But here's the truth. Every major labor and civil rights victory involved economic pressure. Here's another myth.
Wait, go back to that one real quick. Just ask Target. Look at Target bottom line from that boycott. They'll never be the same.
Prime example. But how many folks are still crossing that picket line? How many people are still turning their back on what was trying to be done? Economic pressure makes the difference. Here's another myth, that unions are outdated. But the truth is, union workers earn more, have better benefits, and safer workplaces. And remember these. Use them at work, use them at home, share them in your communities. Truth is powerful when it's repeated. Come on, Reginald.
And accountability, that's about asking who benefits, who pays the price, who's actually avoiding responsibility. It's about voting with intention, organizing with discipline, and spending money with values, not just out of habit. And it means staying engaged after the headlines fade, which is back to your point with the Target boycott. Well, you don't hear about it anymore. There's no one nurturing that movement anymore. It's not in the headlines anymore. So some of us don't know what to do. Do we go back there? Do we not go there? So that's all about staying engaged even after the headline fades.
You're absolutely correct. Did Markia have something, or Timmia?
I just go ahead. I was just going to say that to piggyback off of Reginald and Markia, you're absolutely right. We have to stand together, and we have to be just strategic with where we put our dollars. Our dollars have power, and with those dollars, we have to be more mindful, and we have to spend smartly, wisely, and we have to back companies that back workers.
Absolutely
And
correct.
to jump on that really quick too, let's think about this as like the bigger picture. We're talking to you guys about solidarity, standing together, strikes, and things like that. So these people are trying to earn funds. They don't have any money to spend anywhere. Like we're gonna talk about, like that's the whole reason we're doing this, is to put money in the pockets of the people that need it, right? It's like you know, some of us are fortunate enough to be able to spend our money places. And the fact that the workers that work at these places can't even afford to shop at the place that they work is crazy.
And there was another report talking about SNAP benefits that I saw on Instagram. We're going to talk about that maybe next week, and how people are working and they can't afford life's necessities, and they still qualify after working 40 hours a week, still qualify for SNAP benefits. So we're going to go back to that, because we have to keep that in the headline. Wouldn't you agree, Reginald Small?
I would agree with you, Errol, that we don't need to go down that rabbit hole today, but it's worth worth going down on another day. SNAP benefits and the increase in medical insurance cost, which is an elephant.
You're so right
so
about that.
Next week, Errol, that would be a good one, with approval from the producer, of course.
So here's the call to workers: stand with each other before layoffs hit. Don't wait until it's personal. Organize early, support the picket lines, the union drives, the protests. And to voters, hold leaders accountable beyond slogans. Track their votes, their promises, their money sources. Vote in primaries and local races, not just the general elections. You can control more on the local level. And to activists, to all of our activists, stay rooted in truth, even when it's inconvenient. Share information, educate others, keep pressure on decision makers. Boycotts matter, strikes matter, protests matter, not because they're easy, but because they force accountability. And accountability is a part of adulthood. And the truth may feel like a threat, but it's the only thing powerful enough to protect working people. You're listening to KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your favorite podcast player: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeart Radio, Podchaser, Amazon Music. Search for CWA Hour of Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights to stay connected, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. It's time now for the Marshall Minute with David Marshall. Each week, he'll break down a hot topic and connect life, health, and the labor movement, because when we live better, we fight stronger. So let's lean in and listen close. And here's David Marshall with the Marshall Minute.
Good morning, family. Good morning, everyone. Today's Marshall Minute, I want to talk about the GPS rule. For years, I've been fascinated by the power of GPS systems. I like to think back to the way we used to travel, using the paper maps and having to stop to pull over to read them or make adjustments, and occasionally getting lost on road trips. It was common and usually a spark for an argument from whomever you was in the car with. But as technologies came out, it made that old mode of travel basically obsolete. And for me, GPS made road trips more enjoyable and created peace along the way. Systems have now evolved into sophisticated technology. With apps like Waze, Google, Apple Maps, they offer all kinds of useful data. Stuff like crowdsourcing, traffic, ETAs, and precise turn-by-turn directions. But even with all that sophistication, sometimes I get off track or ignore its instructions. But here's the amazing thing. When this happens, it doesn't get frustrated or chastise me. It doesn't tell me to go back to the beginning and start over. It doesn't refuse to help me anymore because of my failure to follow its directions. No, it simply says recalculating and gets me back on the path to where I'm going. And I think we can all learn from this model and try to apply it in real life and in real world situations. So today's Marshall Minute will focus on that, the GPS rule, which typically refers to a metaphor for personal goal setting and navigating life's challenges. In self-improvement context, it's used as a framework for decision making. So to start, you need to establish your current location. You must honestly acknowledge where you're starting from before you can move forward. Then you need to define your destination. Without a clear goal set, you're just driving aimlessly. A GPS requires an exact address to function. So you must develop steps to reach your goal, but always expect detours along the way. And then recalculate. Don't give up. When you make a mistake, you hit an obstacle, just like GPS that doesn't scream and stop working, you just simply recalculate a new path to the same destination. So try to extend that same recalculating grace that you give your GPS to yourself and others when things go wrong. And just as GPS technology continues to evolve and adapt to our needs, so should we. And we should continue to evolve as individuals, activists, union members, and together as a society, embracing the values of grace, positivity, and support that allows us to navigate the twists and turns of life with greater ease and compassion. So as we travel down this road, let us remember the true magic lies not in reaching our destinations, but the journey itself, the journey of selflessness, optimism, and kindness that makes the world a better place for everyone. So let us be the GPS guides that guide each other towards a brighter and more fulfilling future. And this, my folks, has been the Marshall Minute, where living well is the greatest act of love. And I'm going to ask Errol, can I extend the minute for a minute?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'm going to go on to another direction because I saw the next segment and I was like, hey, I got something for that. Right now across this country, we're watching a coordinated attack on workers' rights, voting access, and the right to protest. These aren't isolated stories. They're connected, from corporations posting record profits while laying off workers to states passing laws that criminalize protest. These efforts are quietly weakening union power and worker protections. These are not accidents. This is what it looks like when power feels threatened, and there is a connection, to where all this comes together. These systems don't want a fair fight. They want a distraction. They want exhaustion. They want noise. That's the Crow's strategy. So I know that's going into the next subject, and I'll turn it back over to you, Errol, for when crows attack the eagle strategy.
All right.
I'm sorry. I'm going to call an audible and jump right in here for a second because you said something that's been on my mind a lot, David. And right now you said we're watching coordinated attacks on workers' rights, voting access, and the right to protest. And it's the right to protest for me that's really been that I've been really struggling with. And we've seen how the attacks on our right to protest are one of our, I don't remember the exact amendment number. Don't y'all come for me. But it's a right, and it's in our Constitution. And it's really bizarre to me that as a country, a lot of our leadership express how we must, support certain things in our Constitution, and the way that one particular right has been attacked, amongst others. But that one in particular stands out to me, especially because it's very selective, and the selective outrage is crazy. And I want to talk about really quickly just the protests against ICE raids in the country. I feel like, again, people are able to express themselves the way that they need to when they don't agree with a particular situation. And it's just really bizarre to me that the protests against ICE are shunned in the media. However, there was just a march in or some type of action to memorialize the actions that took place on January 6th. And that was just really confusing for me and hard for me to digest, because what I don't understand is, again, for me, it doesn't matter what side you're on when you're exercising your rights as a free US citizen, right? Like, we should be able to, if we want, support whatever side that we want to in a peaceful manner, you know what I mean? Because that's well within our rights. So I don't understand how certain people are blocked from protesting in whatever manner they would like to protest, and others are celebrated for doing so, even when there's losses of life. Right, Reginald?
You're exactly right, Mikeia, and I believe the amendment that you're talking about is the First Amendment, which contains civil liberties. And the 5 components of that First Amendment just happen to be freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and the right to petition the government. Those are the components of that. And so with saying that, I'm so glad you brought that up, Mikeia, because I wanted to bring up the name, and I want us to just take a moment to reflect on this name of Renee Nicole Good. And if you've been watching the news or hearing anything right now, she is the person who was actually shot in Minneapolis, Minnesota, during what the current administration has described as the largest immigration enforcement operation in U.S. history. I received some information from one of our constituency organizations, the Twin City chapters of the Labor Council for Latin American Advancement. They're in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. And it says that we mourn the death of Renee Nicole Good, and we stand in solidarity with her family and loved ones during these troubling times. Her loss comes amid escalating attacks, discrimination, and intimidation faced by communities across the Twin Cities in recent weeks. And that's a quote. And all I wanted to do is recognize that in all of this that is going on in these United States, that we must not forget the names of these people. We are a human rights labor radio show. And when there is what we perceive as an attack on First Amendment rights and civil liberties, it goes further than that. But today I want to remember Renee Nicole Good, who was killed, regardless of what the circumstances that we're going to probably hear for the next 6 months. Controversial circumstances, opinionated circumstances, there was a loss of life. And there is a First Amendment rights and civil liberties here that it seems to be in question here of what we actually have a right to do. So today, we remember Renee Nicole Good and the loss of life in Minnesota.
Well, thank you so much, Reginald, because this fits right where we're going with this, when crows attack eagles. And there is only one bird bold enough to attack an eagle, and that's a crow. It doesn't attack because it's stronger. It attacks because it's threatened. But the eagle never fights back. And y'all stick with me just a little while till we get through this. Instead, it rises. And so today we're talking about what that means for human rights activists, labor organizers, and anyone standing in the way of injustice. Because right now, the crows are loud. Turn to your neighbor and say, the crows are loud. So let's talk more about how eagles move. There is only one bird bold enough to attack an eagle, and I've said that before, and that's the crow. It swoops, it pecks, it makes noise, it tries to distract. But here's the key: the eagle never fights back. Instead, the eagle rises. It changes altitude. It flies higher until the crow can't breathe, can't follow, and falls away. And so today we're talking about human rights and labor rights and justice work because activists and organizers and truth tellers, we are the eagles. And right now, the crows are loud. But the question is not why they're attacking. The question is, are we fighting back or are we rising? And crows represent systems that survive on disruption, misinformation, union busting, voter suppression, attacks on workers, attacks on marginalized communities. They don't want progress. They want exhaustion.
You're right. Like you said, they attack when they're threatened. And so every gain a worker makes, every human right we defend, every voice we amplify, it threatens a system built on silence.
And crows work in groups. A group of crows is called a murder. And that's important. They swarm. Media narratives, they coordinate political attacks, cultural wars. It's never just one of them.
Exactly. The noise is intentional. And if the eagle turns around to fight, it loses its advantage. It risks injury. It wastes energy. And activists fall into this trap all the time.
And let me just jump in because I know David got something to say, but I read this. Well, I was listening to a quote this morning, and our former president Barack Obama once said, "If we lose focus, we will have problems." And I think that that's super important. Like you said, like if we lose focus, if we take our eye off the ball, if we allow them to divide us, if we allow them to separate us, if we allow them to make us selfish, if we allow them to tell us that our problems are bigger than somebody else's problems or that somebody else's problems doesn't affect us, if we lose focus, we will have problems.
Sound like somebody's hiding the Happy New Year.
Well, I agree with you totally. I mean, we see this in labor fights. Companies provoke workers. They bait unions into reactive battles, and instead of allowing for space for, coalition building, strategy, and even public pressure. The system wants us angry, divided, and distracted. That's the crow's advantage, but, altitude, education, solidarity, literacy, that's where the eagle wins.
Well, I know we're dealing with crows and eagles and all that, and I'm going to just throw this in. I wonder, food for thought here, is there a time to take on the crow strategy? I feed birds. I like birds, and I have bird feeders on my property, and I watch crows, and they're pretty smart. They're pretty strategic, and they actually stick together. So I don't know, Errol, whether or not, is there a particular time that we need to take on a crow mentality, meaning some of their most positive attributes during a particular fight? Maybe strategic.
And I'm glad you said that, Reginald, because when I was looking at this segment, right, I was looking at it, and y'all love to say, with the approval of the producer. But obviously, I think that it makes the show runs best based off of what the community of our community feels like is necessary, and so I don't veto or take anything out that people bring to me. And so I was thinking that when I saw the segment, I'm like, I understand the ego in certain aspects, but then, like you said, I do identify with the crow on a more cellular basis as a union member, as an activist, because they're working in a group and they're so much so that they can take on the ego. In that the ego is the 1%. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm like, the ego is the 1%. We got all of these crows and they'll attack them. Now, again, sometimes they'll win, right? Like sometimes they'll all come together and win. And sometimes, like Errol said, the ego will put itself so far out of reach that it murders the crows. And that was something else that I was thinking. But I'm like, well, maybe if we pile a few more crows on there, it might not be able to, clip a few more of the feathers. They might not be able to go anywhere. So I love that you brought that up. I do think that there's more than one way to look at this. And I do appreciate, Errol, for you bringing it the way that you did, because I think it gives us a way to view things from more than one perspective.
So, of course, we know the system wants us angry, divided, and distracted. And by me bringing up the crow, I was doing neither of those, just by the way. So the crow's advantage, that's the crow's advantage. But altitude, education, solidarity, policy, literacy, that's where the eagle wins. And when I think about the eagle in this particular segment, I think about, I believe one of our first ladies actually said, when they go low, we go higher. And I think that's what comes to mind when we're actually talking about this. And rising does not, and I think this is Errol's point, rising doesn't mean silence. It doesn't mean that you don't take action, but it does mean intentional action.
All right, come on, Tay.
And yeah, like look at what's happening right now, the attacks on voting rights, rollback of worker protections, criminalization of protests. That's crow behavior.
Yes, definitely bird behavior, okay? And and social media like amplifies that. Like rage spreads faster like than reason. Like it doesn't matter. Like, you ever watch a video on social media and it'll be like a 10-second clip and you're like outraged. Like, I mean, your face flashes hot, you're upset, you're ready to share it to everybody. And you form this whole opinion off of something that's like 10 seconds long. And you didn't even look at the whole thing. You don't even have like your full handful of whatever happened. You're just outraged. And it's like, if we're not careful, activism turns into constant firefighting. We're putting out all these little fires and we're missing the bigger picture.
And if you're trying to put out all those fires, you become exhausted. And some of us are exhausted because we're fighting battles we didn't choose. You have to be strategic in your fights. Come on, Timmia.
Human rights work is not about chasing every outrage. It's about sustaining people for the long haul.
So how do eagles operate? Come on, David.
Well, they focus. They have clear goals, they have clear targets and clear demands.
My Lord. Reginald, look like you got your hand up.
Well, it appears that they build coalitions. They don't fly alone forever, but they choose when to engage.
Ooh, something y'all can learn from the eagle. Huh? Where's Tay? What was that, Tay?
They document, they educate, they vote, they organize workplaces and communities.
And rising means we stop letting our enemies set the agenda. Y'all better come on, talk to me today.
Right. And
That's
I'm glad,
true.
like, for real.
Mhm.
Go ahead. Yeah, like
No,
we stop letting them.
At what time did we stop turning the other cheek, though? That I just wonder sometimes.
Baby, I done ran out of cheeks.
Me too. I don't have any. I had two.
I think that's taken out of context, because I mean, if you want to take something out of context, it says we also be ye always ready. So that means
that's true. That's true. Be ye always ready. Be what
yeah.
Say, wise as a serpent and swift as a dove. What did it say? What's the other scripture?
I'll leave that to Errol because I don't want to get in a quote incorrectly. But I took that out of context. I want to say that because this is a gospel radio station. So
it's wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listen. Like she said, where I think we were kind of going with this is, again, we have to stop letting other people dictate what outrages us. We need to stop letting people do things, right, to trigger us. Like we need to be able to manage our own triggers and again, focus on what's important, focus on the bigger picture. I don't, and you know what, this happened, right, where we were told to focus on a certain marginalized group using a bathroom, but people stopped focusing on their healthcare rights because they didn't want those particular type of people to have the same kind of healthcare. We lost focus and then we lost our rights. You understand what I'm saying? Like we need to stop letting somebody else direct our focus and where we're looking. We need to take these blinders off so that we can see and be present in what we need to see and be present in. And if you're being attacked, if you're being criticized, if you're being targeted, it's more often than not because you're effective in whatever it is that you're doing.
But Makia, let me jump in right here because you too young to be talking out like this.
Well, I'm
I'm
not.
a I'm an old lady. I'm an old lady now. After that last birthday, my age feel real serious and adult.
Listen,
And I
trying to
and I
figure out
think
when we stop playing defense and start playing offense because
I,
it seemed like we just ducking, and we need to
I
start shooting the ball back. You know what I mean? Does that make
But
sense? I'm not
but
really a football person.
I think that's all by design. You know, it's all about creating those distractions, like we were you were saying earlier, to get your mind off, to get you uh, uh, to take you away from what they really want. You know, they're creating all these different things to have us outraged, so that they can really do what they're wanting to do undercover. And so we gotta get hip to the game that, yeah, when we got all these, hotbed issues, that at the end of the day, what are they really coming for?
and we got to stay focused.
Stay focused, and we said this on another show some time ago. We talked about staying the course because what's happening now, there are so many things that are coming, and I'm speaking specifically human rights and labor. There are so many things being thrown at us daily. If you look at the TV, social media, there are so many things. You don't know whether to look at this, you don't know whether to fight that or that. But we have been prepared for such a time as this before some of this stuff has happened, way back.
Correct.
I mean, we have trainings, we have education pieces. We're always talking these things. So we are prepared. We can't get thrown off track. We have to stay the course. What infuriates me is if we're talking about something and someone says to me, well, we did gender justice already. That's old. I mean, what do you all have new? Well, it doesn't need to be new. Stay the course on what you're talking about. We've done biases training. We've done anti-racist training. Do you think that's invalid today, even though it came out when, just coincidentally, we're talking Minnesota and George Floyd? We created a training that swept the
You
nation,
sure are
which is
correct.
called an anti-racist union and bias, implicit bias, which made people aware of their own feelings about others. That is just as important today as it was 5 years ago. So we have to stay the course and not just start everything that comes out. We have to create something new. You don't have to create something new. Stay the course, get stronger and better at it.
And just add some more
Exactly. What are we trying
videos.
to
Go ahead.
what are we trying to reinvent we're trying to reinvent the wheel when it's the same wheel that's turning, right? Like you said, none of these things are new. None of these systems of oppression are new. These are the same attack tactics, right, in different clothes. It's nothing new, right? The same people are being attacked. The
Systematic.
same groups are being oppressed. Like there's nothing new here. And that's what honestly, burns my biscuits. I was gonna say something else, but that's what burns my biscuits is when people try to pretend that these are new issues or that this is unheard of, right? This is so new that these things are happening. No, there have
Hmm.
been people of color since the dawn of time. There have been transgender people since the dawn of time. There have been LGBTQIA plus queer people since the dawn of time. Like there have been impoverished people versus rich people since the dawn of time. People in power versus people who don't have, or people in power who don't want people to have power. Or people who have power that are, that feel like they're inferior to other or whatever. None of these things are new. Women have been oppressed since oppression became started with the letter O. Okay, like none of these things are new things, and the fact that we're told that we have to move and contort ourselves, and we have to always make these things new and exciting to get people involved. And I get it, right? Like we do want everybody to collectively, fight for these certain things together. And we do, it's like we're being told like we have to always do so much to get people to just give so little, and that just infuriates me like to my core. We should not have to overextend ourselves to get you to to be awaken to what's been happening to you your whole life.
This people don't become involved until it affects them personally.
But
And I
everything
think,
affects somebody, though, is what I'm. Is what
yeah,
I was.
but they don't
Absolutely.
care until it affects them personally.
No, and that's the
But
sad part
everything
about it.
affects everybody. Like you.
Yeah,
I'm
but they
what
can't
I just
see
said.
it.
You fit into one of those groups, right? Like
Yeah,
I don't
Uh,
know somebody that like you fit into. You have group.
Oh yeah, and the wheel of fortune keeps turning. I mean, if it didn't fall on you today, it'll fall on you tomorrow.
right. And it's
right.
just
Or
like,
it fell on you last week and you missed it
hello.
because you was already squashed by what happened before.
Well,
Exactly.
and if we look at like what's going on and with everything, human rights, our human rights, they're not lost with one, drastic moment. They chip away at that with a policy change here or a court decision here, and they grow emboldened with every one of those. And so we really have to quit staying silent and on the sidelines. We're going to have to address these things because they're going to chip away until we're going to look up one day and they're all gone.
And
Right.
sometimes
And
I
like to
think
what
even in human rights, we got to learn how not to be politically correct. We got to say some
okay.
stuff that needs to be said.
And well, I don't know about that, but to the point where Timmia said, when
I'm a
Timmia said,
Sagittarius, so
so am I. And when Timmia said, we have to be on offense and not defense, I'm like, we got to at least get in the game. We need to stop being
Yeah,
spectators.
you're
We need
right.
to
mhm.
No,
stop
you're right.
watching
Yeah.
stuff
Get in
happen
the
to
game.
us.
Yes, you're
We're
right.
literally watching things like
We're
things
playing
are like they're
dodgeball, but letting the ball hit us. We're not even
right.
trying to run from the
Like we
ball.
might as well be a cardboard cutout out there because
Exactly.
these things are happening and nobody's doing anything at all. It's just like,
Well, I won't
there's
say
so many.
nobody's doing anything,
Okay,
Mikey. Let's
I
not.
take that back. I
Yes.
take that back. There are a lot of unlawful things that have been happening, and the people that are in control of the laws are just sitting there letting it happen. And I voted for some of these people, and I'm sitting here like, hello, but I can't do
Mhm.
anything,
That's
right?
okay. I got
So
some coming out
let me
shortly.
mute myself because honey, you know what? I'm a little fired up, and
I
I
under,
told
yeah,
myself I was gonna be more intentional with where I put a lot of my energy.
and I tell
So
you,
now my
my kid is hot this morning for this happy new year. Come on, Tay. Tay been going off mute and coming back. Tay got something to say. Tay.
No, so I was actually just listening because I'm always in the game, Errol, and what I'm saying here is that a lot of the people who they talk about it, they're not really about it. So in the public eye, they
Ooh.
say, "Hey, I'm with you. I stand for you." That's what they say in the public eye. But when you need them to sign on to something that's actually fighting for workers, all of a sudden we can't get a hold of you anymore. Some people are only with you when it looks good. So I'm just back here listening because I understand the fire that comes from my kid. Because yes, my kid, when you vote for someone, you want them to be accountable. And right now,
Right.
there's so many people who are turning the other way. They can't answer the phone anymore. But it's coming up again. They will need us. So we will hear the great speeches. But remember where they were when we really, really, really counted on them. Don't
Hmm.
fall for it. It's about what they were doing before the election, midterms, or whatever are coming up. So I'm talking about on every level. So workers have been under attack since the beginning of last year. So now everyone
Since
is going,
before then, when eggs was $6, I just seen a flashback on my Facebook. I posted about it. Eggs was $6.37 a dozen. I, a working class individual, have been under attack since then. I could not afford 12 eggs.
yeah. And like I said, Mikey, I understand the fire in you right now. And the eggs that was an outrageous time for all of us, especially because I love me some eggs too, scrambled.
Me
And
too.
so.
Well, and the silence from those that know better is deafening, and we got a chance to change that, and we'll be able to do that in the upcoming election cycle to try to chart the course to correct some of these things that we're talking about today.
Right. I think this was a good discussion, guys.
I love how David comes in all soft and monotone later, like he on Quiet Storm Radio rapping.
I'm trying to
I'm
get the
over
gig
here
on the
shouting.
overnight. I'm trying to get the overnight gig at the show. See if they got a midnight, the Quiet Storm.
I'm in Quiet Storm with featuring Shirley Caesar. You're listening to KYOK 1140 AM in the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you by visiting kyokradio.org and pressing the Listen Live option. Tune in live every Thursday at 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on kyokradio.org, the CWA Strong app, or your preferred podcast player. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, Amazon Music. Search for CWA Hour Power on your favorite podcast player. Like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at CWA National Human Rights to stay connected, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. Up next, we have Timmia Wiley with Union Buster of the Week.
Good morning, everyone. So this week's Union Buster of the Week is a 2-for-1 special because apparently hypocrisy is buy one, get one free. On one side, we have the state of Florida, a government with a strong, well-documented record of rolling back labor rights, civil rights, women's rights, and LGBTQ plus protections. On the other side, Starbucks, a corporation that wraps itself in progressive branding with aggressively fighting workers who dare to unionize. And today, Florida is suing Starbucks for $100 billion, claiming the company's DEI policies violate civil rights. So let me say that again. Florida is suing Starbucks for $100 billion, claiming the company's DEI policies violate civil rights. Florida says Starbucks discriminates. Florida, same Florida that bans books instead of banning wage theft, attacks teachers' unions while claiming to defend fairness, weakens child labor laws while pretending to care about opportunity, silences LGBTQIA plus voices under the guise of parental rights, punishes workers for protesting while preaching free speech. Florida suing anyone over civil rights is like a union buster filing a grievance over unfair labor practices. The state of Florida, let's talk about your records and your union busting behavior. Right to work laws designed to weaken unions. You have repeated attacks on public sector workers. You've criminalized protests and collective action. You rolled back voter working rights, which are worker rights. You have policies that disproportionately harm Black, brown, immigrant, and LGBTQ plus IA workers. You have open hostility to DEI equity and inclusion unless it's politically convenient. Florida doesn't oppose discrimination. Florida opposes any system that challenges white corporate political power. Starbucks fired and disciplined union organizers nationwide, closed unionized stores while claiming business reasons, delayed bargaining in bad faith, spent millions on anti-union consultants, preached values while violating labor law, created a two-tier workplace, one for compliant workers, another for organizers. Starbucks says DEI is lawful and open to everyone, but collective bargaining, apparently that's where they draw the line. The irony is thicker than a triple shot of espresso. Florida says Starbucks is harming workers' dignity. Starbucks says Florida is misunderstanding its intent. Meanwhile, workers are underpaid, unions are busted, civil rights are weaponized, DEI became the scapegoat, corporate power stays untouched. The lawsuit isn't about protecting workers, it's about controlling narratives and crushing solidarity. Because here's the truth. DEI without labor rights is branding. Labor rights without civil rights are incomplete. And attacking either helps the same people, those already at the top. So here's the verdict. Florida and Starbucks, both of them earn the title because one attacks workers with legislation, the other attacks workers with lawyers. Both fear organized labor, both exploit, identify politics when convenient, both claim moral authority when denying workers real power. The pot calling the kettle black while both are sitting on the same corporate stove. This has been the Union Buster of the Week with me, Timmia Wiley, because when hypocrisy goes unchecked, workers pay the price. This has been your Union Buster of the Week. Back to you, Errol.
Thank you so much, Timmia Wiley, with the Union Buster of the Week. As we come down to the final minutes of the show, from all of us here at the Communication Workers of America CWA Our Power Radio Show, Happy New Year, and may your year be filled with success. An hour is not long enough to be with you, and a week is too long to be away from you. You have been tuned into the CWA Human Rights Our Power broadcast. I hope something you heard today has inspired you to take action toward creating positive change in the world. Every person has the power to make a difference, no matter how small. And by working together, we can create a world where human rights are respected and valued. So I encourage each of you in the listening audience to reflect on your role in promoting human rights to effect change in your communities and beyond. Know that you are not alone in your quest for a more just and equitable world. When faced with injustice, it can be easy to lose hope and give up. But remember, justice may be slow like the truth, but when it finally comes, it will stand. Until next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here on KYOK 1140 a.m. and the all-new 106.5 FM, KYOKradio.org. See you next week.